Hey neighbor, welcome back to another episode of 7 on Sunday right here on ARTV. I appreciate you carving out a little bit of time in your very busy schedule right now when you're quarantined at home to spend here with me. And if you enjoy what you see today, then do me a favor. Press the like button or else subscribe to the channel if you're new so you can see more music content just like this. Sometimes you gotta get the like and sub bait out of the way early. Respect the grind, okay? YouTube algorithms are a fickle friend, much like my relationship to these potentially ill-fated records. Albums that I thought were totally gonna suck or else be majorly disappointing. It's nice to have your expectations subverted, so I challenge you to comment some of the records that you really changed your mind about once you heard everything in full. You can think about it while you watch, but for now, let's crack open this cold one with a healthy dose of soul punk. Up first is the first and, as of now, only solo album from the Fall Out Boy singer Patrick Stump. Can we please get some new music that isn't Lego Batman themed up in this bitch? As someone who grew up listening to Patrick's voice on some of my absolute favorite records, I was kinda hesitant at the time with this soulful direction he was taking. I wasn't fully in love with Fully Ado yet, which is ironic considering it turned into my favorite of theirs, and the numerous delays surrounding soul punk had me as worried as a naive 18-year-old with no worries could be. He dropped the Truant Wave EP in the winter of 2011 to tide fans over while he re-recorded certain parts of the album, and I definitely didn't like it that much at all. It felt messy, and it wasn't until I read an interview nearly 6 months later, just before the album's release, that I gained a respect for what Mr. Stump was trying to do with this record. Patrick not only wrote all of the songs himself, he sang and performed every fucking instrument on the album. The absolute madman! Soul Punk finally released that October, and while I didn't love every single second, you could color me impressed because this man clearly played his heart out and gave every ounce of his creativity to the project, making sure that every drum pattern was banging, every keyboard melody was full of life, and of course, the ever-present guitars that I thought for some reason just wouldn't be on the record? This certainly wasn't leftovers from the Fall Out Boy days. It was a vision come to life, and I hated seeing the project get such a negative knee-jerk reaction back then. Fans have since come to adore the solo project for good reason. You've got uplifting bangers with killer drum solos like Coast, Explode runs wild with energy, Run Dry confronts a potential drinking problem in the most fun way I've ever heard, and if you dare turn the page to the deluxe edition, you'll get the absolute ace Bad Side of 25 that definitely doesn't make me cry at all thinking about how old I am.
It's like I'm the universe and you'll be NASA. Get up, I'm a need space.
Can you really hate me for thinking this was gonna be a train wreck? The title track was irritating to the point of madness the more you heard it, and Seven Rings is one of the most toxic pieces of garbage to ever disgrace my eardrums. As a fan of Ariana Grande, I was the opposite of hyped, and it turns out Thank You Next had the opposite problem when compared to Sweetener. Here's the deal, Ariana released back-to-back records in 2018 and 2019, and a lot of fans felt like things were moving at the speed of light. And in light of the tragic terrorist attack at her Manchester concert, maybe more music was her way of coping, so more power to her? My point is that I hadn't even had time to digest her last pill before another one was coming straight for my throat. I hit play expecting a fizzling pile of throwaway nonsense, much like the two singles I mentioned, but instead I was greeted with banger after banger popping off in the deep cuts. Thank You Next stacked up some big production credits and played to her strengths for pop smashes like Bloodline and the fantastic NASA, also roping in some emotion for the stunning Ghostin' and the mischievous romp of Bad Idea, the latter of those being one of my favorite songs of 2019. Don't judge a pop monster by its cover, that's all I'm gonna say. Fortunately for my ears, Thank You Next wasn't a thank you pass.
I'm still waiting. I'm waiting for my sun to shine.
Number 5, The Maine with their third album Pioneer that found its way into the world at the tail end of 2011. By the late 2010s, I was heralding the Arizona alt-rock band as one of the most consistently great groups of the decade, but the road leading up to Pioneer was a bit rocky, at least according to my memory. MySpace introduced me to the Maine in 2007. Yeah, joke about how old I am and how you don't even know what a MySpace is. Just remember that your old pal John found some of his favorites on there, and the Maine were in my top 8 friends at one point. If you know, you know. Can't Stop, Won't Stop was right up my alley at the time. Bright and horny, young and moody, that was pretty much my lightning in a bottle. And when they dropped Black and White in 2010, I kinda did a double take, like, who are you and what have you done with the Maine? They took it darker, more mature in a way, I suppose, but it wasn't at all a sound that felt authentic to them outside of a few tracks. It's easily the worst album they ever released, and I was worried that Pioneer would be more of the same. Turns out that they had been signed to Warner Brothers, a major label for Black and White, unbeknownst to yours truly, but it was back to the independent circuit for the Boys in Blue just a year later. After giving it a go shortly after the street date, I ended up digging the hell out of what they were doing, and now present day, I'd easily call Pioneer their most underrated album. Not only do you have the peppy gloom of Some Days and the heartfelt Jenny, you've got perfect album openers and closers. Identify burns bright once the gears start spinning, and Waiting for My Sun to Shine rips some big, fat guitar moments out of nowhere, stealing the show not only here, but all throughout the record. A more refined writing style won me over as well. I mean, if I thought Black and White was somehow their mature endeavor at this time, this one easily eclipsed the hurdles ahead, setting them on a path to become that steady, reliable band we all know and love today. Elephant in the room, I didn't care for Intimacy all that much, not back in the day at least. I still really have to be in the mood to throw that one on, and perhaps that, along with the tension in the band, made me feel that the once acclaimed British indie band would drop the glass ball hard on 4, which, yes, is my 4th pick on this list. I'm playing your game this time, okay, commenters? Kele literally almost lost his job as the frontman of Bloc Party between 2008 and 2012, as other members like guitarist Russell Lessig stated that Kele was taking too much time away on his solo projects and that they'd have to move on without him. I couldn't imagine Bloc Party without Kele, but then again, here in modern day, I can't even wrap my head around Gordon Moakes not playing bass, or the hardest mountain of all to climb, the fact that Matt Tong isn't behind the drum kit. I mean, come on, he was the heart of the band! Guitars are the star once again, making a move away from the electronics of Intimacy while dialing up the heat and commenting on a lot of societal issues through the lens of satire, anger, or simply just an outsider looking in. The tracks are alarmingly compelling, but I didn't truly get hooked until Kettling blasted straight through my soul. Bloc Party have a lot of killer tracks. I mean, Silent Alarm and A Weekend at the City are packed full of them. But Kettling wakes something deep within me with those squealing guitars. That solo is an absolute ace. Octopus flexes Russell's love for pedal distortion and looping too, and I'm really impressed with how well the guitar tone is held up top to bottom. Blast out some of the deep cuts, Truth, Coliseum, or 3x3, and you'll hear the consistency in the groove, rhythm, and noise I'm talking about. Kele's vocals range from subdued to in your face, and even though this isn't their best record or even a truly great one, it's a solid outing that reminds us all of what they can do together as a unit.
It's like magic, but it's always been a smoke and mirrors game. Anyone would do the same.
Oh, what's that? I'm supposed to review one of the best alternative records of the decade? For sure. Let me just get ready.
Today I'm reviewing the new Gotye album, Making Mirrors.
God, it's hard to watch my older content, but I dig it out of the archives for your entertainment. That was indeed a clip from my 2012 review of the record Making Mirrors by the elusive Australian mastermind known as Gotye. Here's the thing, I always loved that huge single, Somebody That I Used to Know. It's one of, if not the single greatest breakup song ever written, and Kimber fits with him like an absolute angel. So if I loved it so much even back then, why would I have a negative feeling about the rest of Making Mirrors? Well, I hate to play the blame game, but I had a friend that was extremely obsessed with Gotye and couldn't stop playing me samples of songs like State of the Art or Don't Worry We'll Be Watching You every time I got in his car. That creeped me the hell out. I mean, it was weird to just hear these songs out of context, and for a while, I kept that album at bay for that reason. Finally, after some begging from that same friend, I explored the whole thing for myself, and what do you know, it zipped my mouth shut and all criticisms I thought I had were checked at the door. Gotye, real name Wally DeBacher, brought to life a once-in-a-lifetime creation that bridges the gap between fantasy and chaos, even between love and politics, for a mind-bending game of cat and mouse that strikes when you least expect it. The twirl of the keys, the pitch-modulated slide, bright sunshiny melodies, chilling narratives, and catchy hooks, this album packs a metric ton into a 43-minute record. It's so much more than just one single. Start with Easy Way Out or Smoke and Mirrors and tell me you don't want to hear more. From bubblegum pop nightmares to 80s synth pop magic, Canadian pop treasure Carly Rae Jepsen had quite the evolution between albums, which I never would have noticed if not for the urgent and persistent requests from my viewers. All I'm saying is that Call Me Maybe felt like a one-hit wonder waiting to happen, and I Really Like You made me eye roll so hard as the lead single. So what actually happened on Emotion that changed my mind? For starters, the album had already been out for a few months in Japan before I actually got around to hearing it, so I definitely wasn't in a rush to cover a brand new release. I got to actually spend some time with the album and let it touch my heart. Carly Rae proved herself as an artist with this album, taking more creative liberties and running away with a stack of criminally underrated pop gems in the process. I've said it before, but I Really Like You made this seem like it was going to be more of the same, which is why I forced it off my radar for so long. When I realized the rest of the record was nowhere near as sugary sweet, I started craving more and more, so yes, the bonus tracks and Emotion Side B have also made me a very happy fan over the years. Carly and her producers keep such a perfect balance of groovy bass licks and colorful synth hits, bouncing her unbreakable romantic spirit all around and back again. Even if some of the brass on this record isn't actually real, it feels real to me, and it certainly doesn't take away from the adventurous personality of Let's Get Lost or the outstanding album opener We Don't Deserve, Run Away With Me. I'm not saying this album will be for everyone, but I'm gonna keep tossing praise grenades anytime I'm given the opportunity, especially when Carly Rae proved my preconceived notions wrong.
These feelings pound in my chest. Maybe I am better off dead. The last time that I saw her, she was standing on the edge.
I think we all saw this one coming. I talked my trash, I'm well aware, but I also said I'd love to be proven wrong, and damn it, action spoke louder than words. Thank you for zipping my mouth hole with your 8th record called 9, Blink. Yes, we're still on that, not letting that one go. Buddha is not enough. So the months leading up to 9 were plagued with delays and uncertainty, much like the Neighborhoods album cycle in 2011. That turned out to be a golden goose that I loved, but then again, it kind of felt like a fluke, especially given that Tom DeLonge was out of the band and Blink seemed to be scurrying to various producers to just shop around all different sounds. Blame It On My Youth released as the lead single in May, and details about the album's official release date didn't surface until late in the summer. That lead-off single was a doozy, and by that, I mean it fucking sucked. Thank you for telling me about your childhood yet again, Mark Hoppus. And to the rest of the band, I mean, thank you for sounding like a lame pop-punk version of 5 Seconds of Summer meets the Chainsmokers, or whatever the hell they were trying to appeal to on that one. All kinds of different reports and interviews were flying in, with Mark and Travis seemingly giving different answers to every outlet they visited, which leads me to call this one of the most confusing album rollouts of all time. Was the goal to make us think that no one had their shit together and to expect an entire album of na-na-na chants with cozy pop-punk melodies mixed with hip-hop producers? Because that's certainly what they had me believing. Matt Skiba really stepped up to the plate and became a major part of Blink with this album, and for that reason I'm actually pretty proud of them. No Heart to Speak Of further capitalized on the potential he showed with Left Alone on California, and it doesn't stop there as his contributions to the fervent Dark Side, On Some Emo Shit, and the racing Black Rain can't go unnoticed. Instead of a fistful of cringe, Blink delivered this time, and for that I think the fans can breathe a collective sigh of relief. It's definitely not their golden hour or even a top 3 album for them, but it certainly is a breath of fresh air that feels electrifying. It combined Travis Barker's insane drum skills with some more modern approaches, and I'll be damned if it didn't work out almost perfectly. Now that we've made it to the end of the episode, I would love to know some albums that you thought were going to be terrible, but you ended up loving instead. Let me know in the comments down below, and in case you missed it, tap here to see the last episode of 7 on Sunday. You can check out my top 10 favorite modern baseball songs here. Don't forget to hit that like button and ring the bell so you get notifications from my videos, and I'll see you soon for more right here on ARTV.